All right, everybody, I'm back. We're going to do some midseason grades, and today we're going to start out with the defense and the goalies. All right, everybody, this will be a pretty informal video. I won't be citing stats a whole lot. This is basically just going to be how I think every player has done up until this particular point in the season. I will talk a little bit about special teams as a whole. I'll talk a little bit about how the team's doing 5-on-5 as a whole and everything like that, but that will probably be at the end of the next video where we will talk about the forwards. The first defenseman that I'm going to give a rating to is Jaylen Chatfield. I'm giving Jaylen Chatfield an A-. Jaylen Chatfield has provided everything that we expected him to provide, and he has done so with a greater efficiency than he has before. When it comes to having aggressive gap control and winning foot races, nobody on the team is better than Jaylen Chatfield right now. Jaylen Chatfield is important to the Hurricanes because of how often they deny entry and how often they need to win foot races when the other team is forced to dump the puck in. When it comes to winning foot races, Jaylen Chatfield wins nearly every one of them. His ability to win foot races goes hand in hand with his ability to execute zone exits, and he can either do that himself by skating the puck out, and he also has excellent passing ability. He puts a lot of power behind his passes, and he makes excellent stretch passes because of that. He's gotten where he's jumping in on the rush more, he's helping out with the neutral zone transition more, and he is improving in all aspects of his game without losing any of his defensive capabilities, and that's the most important thing that Jaylen Chatfield can do, is have that foundation of being that steady presence on the blue line, that aggressive gap control, that aggressive and decisive pinching. Jaylen Chatfield literally just needs to keep doing everything that he has been doing, but with him, I feel like that it's going to be there. Chatfield is a pending UFA, and out of everybody on the blue line, I think that he's the one that you prioritize re-signing because of how much he provides you and the fact that it wouldn't break the bank to sign him. And I feel like when it comes to the ability to be a pure shutdown defenseman, he is second only to Jaccob Slavin on the team. And if you're second to Jaccob Slavin when it comes to being a shutdown defenseman, you are doing something right. While I don't think that we'll ever see him utilized on the power play so long as he's with Carolina just because of how many options they have, I do think that that's something that he's capable of for three reasons. One, as aforementioned, he's really good at distributing the puck. If he learned to do that from his own blue line a little bit better in a 5-on-4 or a 5-on-3 situation, you couple that with his skating ability, which he's one of the best skaters on the team, especially when you're talking about edge work in transition and the ability to accelerate very quickly. And we're also noticing now that he has a very powerful shot. Those things combined, Jaylen Chatfield could potentially be a power play option at some point later down the road if he's needed. But where he has really been excellent lately has been when he's been utilized on the penalty kill, and it really just exemplifies how good he is at the defensive side of the game. And with that, we will move off of Jaylen Chatfield, and we will now segue into his partner, Dimitri Orlov. I gave Dimitri Orlov a C+. I flirted with the idea of giving him a B-, but the biggest reason I feel like I couldn't give Dimitri Orlov a B- was because, for the most part, Orlov has showed up. Now we need Skorlov to show up, and part of that's just bad luck because he's been hitting the post a lot. But the biggest things that Dimitri Orlov was brought in for was to provide physicality and offense. The physicality has been there. He has been dishing the body out, and he's adapted much better now that he's with a competent defensive partner with that of Jaylen Chatfield. It did take him some time to adapt, which is understandable. Defenseman in a new system, especially one that's drastically different from what he was used to in Washington and Boston. Carolina plays very different. It's a very much more of an airtight defense first type of mindset, and he hasn't had all the freedom to move the puck that he is used to, but he has adapted over the past couple of months in particular. It is noticeable how much better he's feeling. He's shooting the puck more. He's getting shots through more. Him and Chatfield are an excellent pairing, and it's not like the guy's missing the net. He's just testing the plumbing a little bit too much. Eventually, the puck will start going in for Dimitri Orlov, and the biggest thing about Dimitri Orlov, he's a very, very durable defenseman. He will come in handy, especially down the stretch and especially in the playoffs. He's definitely one of those guys that can move the needle a little bit more in a tight series, but one of the ways that you're noticing he's getting a little bit more comfortable is he's doing some stuff that is very recognizable to his game when he's on, such as getting possession of the puck at the point, walking it in, making good, well-timed, smart pinches, and distributing the puck, doing those seam passes, everything that he's known for doing best is starting to become more and more frequent. I think by the end of the season, I will be surprised if I'm not giving him at least a B+. He has gotten significantly better, and we just need the offense out of him. So segueing into that, the former defensive partner of Dimitri Orlov, albeit short-lived and still an experiment till this day, I don't understand, in that of Tony DeAngelo, I gave him a very generous C. The reason being is because Tony did help breathe some life back into the power play briefly when he was in the lineup, and I feel like that laid the foundation to, one, for Brent Burns to get his all-around game back, which we'll get to him in a little bit, and him to quarterback power play 1, and Brady Shay eventually now quarterbacking power play 2, which is something I had advocated before last season. I thought Brady Shay would make an excellent power play quarterback, and it's really looking that way now. But with Tony, you don't really get a whole lot of good defense, especially through the neutral zone. You don't get a lot of zone entry denials. His zone defense is not as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. He plays a very aggressive and physical game. Where Tony is the most valuable in terms of being a defenseman is his vision, his ability to distribute the puck, and his ability to keep pucks in. He's really good at pinching. He's a little too aggressive with it at times. It gets him into trouble. That's why when he's paired with someone like Slavin, and I think that he would even be okay if he were with Shay, if Pesce were to get traded, which I still think is a possibility, but I'm starting to think that they're not going to trade him. I'll get to that in a little bit. But the biggest thing with Tony DeAngelo is he doesn't have the best gap control. He's not the guy you send out there to deny zone entries. He's the guy that you send out there to pinch aggressively in the offensive zone, keep plays alive, make centering passes, make second effort plays, join the rush. That's the biggest things that you get out of Tony. So you get a lot more offense. So it's a high-risk, high-reward brand of game that he plays, and this will be its own topic, but I essentially think that Tony DeAngelo would be an excellent playmaking winger that could still be utilized to quarterback the power play, so much so that I believe if he were utilized as a forward after he adapted to it, you're looking at a guy who could be a 75 or an 80-point player between what he would do as a winger 5-on-5 and what he would do on the power play as a power play quarterback. But that will get its own topic, but for the little bit that he has been in the lineup, I think he's just kind of the victim, the odd man out of the logjam right now. So in the event that he is utilized again, we may give him a different grade. If he's not utilized much between now and the end of the season, or if he's traded by then obviously I won't be giving him a further grade. Now, moving on to one of the defensemen that were just aforementioned here a little bit ago, Brady Shay. I gave Brady Shay an A+. I think that Brady Shay is the most well-rounded defenseman on the Hurricanes. He's utilized in every single situation. He kills penalties. He is on the power play. We're finding out how good of a power play quarterback he is now, and he is an absolute colossal force 5-on-5. He has a ton of physicality. He defends well. He is about as well-balanced as a defenseman can be. His value is almost 50-50 at both ends of the ice. He denies zone entries. He's really good defending in his own zone. He's good at clearing out the net front presence. Excellent skater, very fast, gets really low, anchors himself to the ice, has a really low skating stance, uses that ability to protect the puck, move it on transition. Great passer, great shooter, absolute sniper. Brady Shay is literally one of the most well-rounded defensemen that you can have. To go back to Jaylen Chatfield for a moment, Jaylen Chatfield is shaping up to be a player that is almost identical to Brady Shay. Brady Shay gives you that perfect balance of offensive defenseman, shutdown defenseman, puck-moving defenseman, power play quarterback, essential penalty killer. In my opinion, he has been the most all-around valuable player on the blue line this season and will continue to do so. And this is a guy I think the Hurricanes really got to start thinking about paying him. I wouldn't prioritize him over Chatfield just because he will command more money. He's got a longer resume. But in my opinion, Brady Shay has been the best and most consistent defenseman on this team, not just this season, but if you really want to quantify it, maybe over the past several seasons. Now, some may immediately say, well, what about Slavin? Jaccob Slavin is the best shutdown defenseman in the National Hockey League, and it's not even close in my opinion. That being said, he's not someone that you utilize in every single situation. We saw him used on the power play a little bit, and he didn't hold a candle to Brady Shay in terms of that, and he doesn't hold a candle to Brady Shay in terms of offense 5-on-5. Brady Shay is the perfectly balanced defenseman that this team needs. It's about the best you can ask for of a second-pair guy. Now, moving on to Brady Shay's good friend and defensive partner, Brent Pesce. I gave Brent Pesce a rather generous C- considering how much better he has played over the past few weeks. The way that he played in the game versus the Penguins really exemplified what we see that Brent Pesce is capable of. In addition to the 2 goals, he had an excellent night defensively. He's been doing a lot of the things that we got accustomed to seeing Brent Pesce do over the years, using body contact to separate guys from the puck, also having that really good poke checking ability, that really quick edge work that he has where he can step side to side really quick and angle somebody off at the most opportune moment at the blue line, or force them into a corner and prevent them from being able to make a pass or to hold on to the puck. Brent Pesce is one of those guys that if you're not talking about him a whole lot, he's typically doing his job correctly. Unfortunately, we had been talking about him a lot over the past few months, but lately he has looked much more like the Brent Pesce that we're used to. Not flashy, not pretty, but provides that steady right-handed presence so that Brady Shay can do his thing with moving the puck and everything like that. Brent Pesce is the definition of defend your own blue line, defend your neutral zone, deny entry, rinse and repeat. He's back to doing that now. He's had a little bit of offense lately. Don't expect that to stay because it's not his calling card, but everything else that we're accustomed to Brent Pesce doing, he has started doing again lately, even though he had it a little bit rough earlier in the season, had that surgery, had a rough time when he came back, and finally it looks like he's starting to get back to it. So I'm hoping maybe some contract talks have moved along and we just haven't heard about it for whatever reason and everything, because I think that was weighing on him a lot. But he has acted much more like himself, played much more like himself over the past few weeks, and I expect by the end of this season that I will at least be giving Brent Pesce a B+ by the end of the season. And one final note on Brent Pesce before I move on to another person whose name starts with a B, but I won't say his name yet until I give him his appropriate title. One of the bellwethers of Brent Pesce's game is if he is selling out and blocking shots successfully, and he's doing it on a frequent basis. That's how you know he's feeling good, that he's feeling confident and feeling really comfortable. He's had a lot of excellent shot blocks lately. If Brent Pesce has a very, very particular specialty, it is his ability to block shots. Now, I will make sure I refer to the next defenseman correctly before I say his name. The alpha male of our species, Brent Burns. I am giving him a B+. Burnsy had a little bit of a hard time getting going this season. There was a lot of speculation from a lot of people, myself included, that maybe he had lost a step and now he's back to defying Father Time yet again. He's giving you everything that you need right now. He's quarterbacking power play 1. He's supplementing Jaccob Slavin's defensive needs on the penalty kill. He's been much better defensively than I think a lot of people give him credit for. Burnsy doesn't have the most amazing gap control, but once he does gap up on somebody, he's really good at executing poke checks or laying the body on him or doing something to separate the player from the puck. Above all, the offense is coming now, be it 5-on-5 or on the power play. He's starting to get more shots through. He's making better, more crisp passes. Everything that he does well when he has possession in terms of being able to evade forecheckers, move the puck on transition, walk it all the way through, taking it from the point and walking it in, distributing a pass or putting a shot on net to shoot for a rebound. Everything that we know that Brent Burns is good at, he has been doing exceptionally well lately, and he has created a ton of offense by proxy for the last defenseman on the list that I'm going to mention, but in my opinion still the most important, not only defenseman but player on this team, in that of Jaccob Slavin. Despite having somewhat of an uncharacteristic start and seeming to put up some more numbers, but it coming at the expense of what he does defensively, I am giving Jaccob Slavin an A+. Although things were a little bit weird at first, Jaccob Slavin eventually got back to the Jaccob Slavin we know, that is that airtight, shutdown defenseman that very rarely pinches, but when he does, it's well-timed. It usually generates more offensive zone time. There's nobody better than him in this league in shutting down transition through the neutral zone. There's nobody in this league better than him at denying zone entries. There's nobody in this league better than him defending in his own zone. Jaccob Slavin from the opposing blue line on back is the most valuable player in this league in terms of forcing turnovers, taking away passing lanes, and preventing transitions. And his abilities as a penalty killer need absolutely no introduction. Amazing shot blocker. Probably the best technical gap control in the game. It's almost like an optical illusion to everybody who tries to skate by him when they have possession of the puck. Jaccob Slavin can almost be in two places at once. We've seen all the times that he has been amazing at shutting down odd man rushes, and there is not a better defensive stick in the game than Jaccob Slavin. Above all, the most important thing that Jaccob Slavin provides in addition to what he does on the ice is what he does on the bench and in the locker room as being someone who wears a letter. Even though I do believe that Sebastian Aho is the next captain of this team, Jaccob Slavin is going to be the longest tenured player wearing a letter on the team after Jordan Staal retires, and I have zero doubt that the Carolina Hurricanes will be re-signing Jaccob Slavin, as in my opinion he is arguably the first but at least the second most important player the Hurricanes have drafted in this era. So now with the defense out of the way, we're going to talk about the goalies. Goalies I'm not too well versed on, as I've said before, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on them. So considering that Freddie Anderson has still not been back, I'm not going to give him a grade for the time being. If he does make it back, I may give him one at the end of the season if I'm able to do end-of-season player grades. I will be relocating around that time, so I may or may not do the end-of-season player grades. Antti Raanta, I'm going to give a C+ primarily because of his recent performances. He's been holding down the fort pretty well with Pyotr Kochetkov being out with that concussion. He looks a lot more like the Antti Raanta that we'd gotten used to. The biggest thing with Antti Raanta is he can steal games. He can be a good, consistent goaltender as long as he's not utilized too much. Hopefully the Hurricanes don't run him until the wheels fall off. I still think the Hurricanes need another goalie. When accounting for the entire season, Antti Raanta has been pretty average, but the biggest reason that grade got dragged down was because of his short stint where he was really bad and got put on waivers and went down to the Chicago Wolves for a little bit and then came back up. But ever since, he's been solid. He's been the Antti Raanta that we're used to. Just as long as he is not overextended and overutilized, I think that he'll still be good to go until the end of the season. But the Hurricanes need to get to a place where Antti Raanta is a third option and not a second option. And that leads me to, lastly, Pyotr Kochetkov. Massive, massive improvement. I am giving Pyotr Kochetkov a B+, and I think that he has the potential to have an A at the end of the season. So that's going to be it for this video. I plan on doing a separate video in regards to the forwards. I'm also going to do a couple of more informal videos like this where I talk about my observations of Felix Unger-Sorm at the World Junior Hockey Championship, and also recently I have been watching a lot of UMass games to keep an eye on Scott Morrow, as he will be essential to maintaining the offensive production of the blue line well into the future, and as well as helping it get younger as some players start to retire and or move on in free agency. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, comment, subscribe, and please consider donating to my Buy Me a Coffee. The link will be in the description. Thank you very much. Y'all take care, and I will see you next time.